Okay, guys. Now we're going to talk about the tipping point of World War One. You've got all these things in play. We said the main causes of World War One, main standing for militarism, so competition, who's got the best army, alliances, countries would join, nation states would join with other nation states to make sure that they had each other's back and their military power was even more powerful. Imperialism, which is the I, where we saw the colonialism and colonization, where they're controlling every Latin America to Africa to Asia, Southeast Asia, and so on. And then finally, nationalism. Let's put that term back up there. Now, nationalism, or feeling intense pride of someone's homeland, has become a powerful idea in Europe. So, what happens is the guy on the right-hand corner, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary, comes to visit the city of Sarajevo, which was a part of Austria-Hungary. Well, Serbian nationalists wanted Serbia to be its own independent country, and Sarajevo was the largest city in the area at the time. So they came up with a plan to assassinate Archduke Franz Ferdinand in a hope to get freedom for their people or to make a point. That's why many times we use the term terrorism to label one group of people or somebody that's attacking another group of people, not accounting for the consequences. So, by the Serbians' point of view, they are definitely nationalists. They're doing things to make the country free from the Hungarians. But from the Austrian-Hungarians' point of view, they are terrorists. They're attacking and killing their royal blood. So let's look. Now, on June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was assassinated. And the story goes that the Serbian nationalists, one of them actually went up to a police officer, tapped him on the shoulder, and kind of asked, which car has the Archduke and the princess in it? And the police officer pointed out and said, oh, it's the third or fourth car down on your right. Guy walks over, runs up, takes an explosive, throws it, hits the Archduke in the face. It bounces off his face, explodes in the crowd, kills over 20 people, hurts many others, does not kill the Archduke or the princess, that their intended target. So the Archduke is actually kind of an interesting guy. He seems like a kind of a good guy. He gets to the capital. He's greeted by the mayor of the city. And the mayor says, oh my gosh, how are you doing? He says, how am I doing? The Archduke's Franz Ferdinand's like, are you kidding me? I just had somebody try to blow up or assassinate me. I haven't had a worse day before. And what happens is the mayor says, well, let's just have ceremonies inside and just act like nothing happened and no more parading through the streets. Well, the Franz Ferdinand is actually kind of seems like a good guy. He says, well, no, that's not what I want to do at all. It's like, well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to go to the hospital and go visit those that were hurt. The people that are hurt are still alive. Those who have died, pay respect to their families because they're really trying to kill me. And the mayor agrees to this. And they start taking them down back alleys, and out of nowhere, Serbian nationalists run up with guns, and they shoot both him and his wife down in the streets. So the question is, why does this one assassination make everything tip over, explode into World War I? Well, now it starts with the nationalism, but it goes into the alliances again. Again, alliances are agreements between governments to fight together against any threats through usually a treaty or some kind of pact they sign. Now, the assassination of King Ferdinand forced Serbia's alliance partner, Russia, to declare war on Austria-Hungarian Empire. The Serbians are very similar to the Russians in the fact that they are both kind of a Slavic culture, so they had a more similar uniqueness about their nationality. Remember, we talked about their culture and their views and their belief system. While the Austrian-Hungarians identify with what group? What you think about that? What language do they speak in Austria-Hungary? We talked about language, and they speak German. So the Germans were closely aligned with the Austria-Hungarians. So the Russians declare war on Austria-Hungary, and of course, Austria-Hungary's alliance with Germany declare war on Serbia and Russia. So now you have 4 countries going at it. So how does it get so complicated so quick? Well, France had an alliance with Russia, so now they declare war on Germany and Austria-Hungary, and vice versa. And then the Germans come up with this great idea, and actually Hitler would use this idea as well later, to bring their forces through Belgium and the Netherlands to get into France from the north, because there's basically a wall of defense between France and Germany because of the tension between the two countries. In the top right-hand corner, you can see the powers of World War One. You see the British at the front, and the British are going to declare war on Germany because they're backing up Belgium, and they have a treaty with them. And then you can see the Germans and the French. Okay, so what we call those powers, the first group is the Allied powers that are Triple Entente, which is French for friends. So it was an alliance between the French, the Great Britain, Russia, Serbia, Greece, Romania, Japan, Italy, Brazil, Portugal, Montenegro, and the United States. The United States is not in it yet. Several other countries are not in it. I want you to remember that France, Great Britain, Russia, and Italy, and then later the United States. Those are the big names you need to remember. Okay, and the Triple Entente. So I've asked you who the Allies' powers are, or Triple Entente, you would know who are the main powers. And you can see on the map in the bottom middle corner, or in the bottom middle picture, Allied powers are in green. And then what are they going to call the other group? The Central powers, because you can see that they're centralized. Now, in your left-hand corner, you could see that they're wearing gas masks and they're using a machine gun. These are some of the many new technologies they used in this war, World War I. The first war really had all these technologies coming into play, but the tactics are very old, based on almost fighting with swords or lining up, shooting at each other. And now the weapons have become much more accurate, much more deadly. In fact, an interesting story about the gas mask is this. A German scientist invented the poisonous gases that are now outlawed by the United Nations and the world laws. He invented it to help Germany win and beat the French and the Russians in World War I. He was a part of the Central Powers. And the irony in the whole situation and how horrible it was, this guy was very nationalistic and cared much and wanted Germany to win. And believe it or not, that gas, after World War I, wouldn't be used until World War II. Now, do you guys remember, have you learned from literature or history in the past or movies, what was the gas used for in World War II? And the sad story is to gas the Jewish people. Now, that scientist was a Jewish German person. In fact, Hitler fired all the Jewish scientists except for him, and he basically was forced to resign. So the guy that fought for his own country, created this weapon to win World War I, would later have Hitler used this gas against his own people. In some ways, he's responsible for killing the Jewish people during World War II by using this horrible invention. It would burn your lungs. You could take you days to die, weeks. Horrible death. Much be easier just to die from gun wounds or a bomb. Okay, so here we go. Now we're moving on. So here's the Central Powers. Now the Central Powers was an alliance between, as we said, between Hungary, Germany, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. Now we're going to look at the pictures on the bottom. These are very important pictures. You can see that the guys on the bottom right-hand corner, that's a trench, because they used what's called trench warfare. And you would dig in to protect yourself from the bombs and if machine guns and they're shooting at you. And as long as you're in the trench, you had some kind of protection. Then in the middle, to the picture to the left of that, you can see that really weird shaped thing on the kind of the middle corner with the treads is the first tank invented by the French. It's got guns on the side. It's missing the turret. Now tanks have turrets on them, so they can go around 360 degrees. This way you'd have to actually turn the tank to try to get to it. And then next to that is an airplane. This is the first war where airplanes were used. And as wild as it is, they'd actually take bombs at first and throw them out of the plane. Later, they would come up with a device so they would release it from the bottom of the plane. It was more accurate and obviously safer. I don't know how you feel, but I don't feel very safe sitting with a bomb in the back of a plane that's bumping around in the air. And then you could see next to that, there's a picture of all the guys in you can see how deep the trenches are. So they use what's called trench warfare. This is what they would use. They dig in, and then we're going to show you a video in a second, and they'd actually get up and they'd run and attack an offensive position or a defensive position. And those guys would be in trenches with machine guns and cannons protecting themselves. Actually, believe it or not, one of the deadliest and probably the deadliest weapon that was invented in World War I was the barbed wire. Barbed wire would trip the guys up in the territory between their trench and the next trench, and they would just make you an easy target. You get stuck. If you got stuck for another 25 seconds, they would shoot you dead. So thousands and thousands of men would lose their lives getting stuck in barbed wire, if any, believe it or not. All right, we're going to stop here, and then we'll start back up, and then I'm going to show you a excerpt, which is a piece from a movie called Paths of Glory, which was written by Stanley Kubrick and is considered one of the first anti-war movies ever, and it's very accurate. It shows you what trench warfare looks like in World War I. We'll be right back.